Today I'm going to talk about what it's like to fast for 40 hours. Now, I would like to be able to say that the first 15 hours are no big deal because I fast all the time, but that would actually be a lie. There is something that happens to my mindset when I know that I'm about to do a 40-hour fast, that suddenly I'm hyper aware of the fact that I'm not going to be eating for 40 hours. I really try and set myself out well though, so that my last meal or snack is something that is a mix of carbs and fats and proteins, and it's not really high sugar or something that's going to give me that crash afterwards where I'm going to feel yuck. I also try really hard not to make a really big deal of the fact that it's going to be my last meal for 40 hours, because then I'm just going to eat a whole lot more than what I normally would. I'm not a bear. I don't need to store food for the winter. It is not that long. I usually time it so that I've finished eating completely by 8:30 at night. I find for me that I fast a lot easier if my last meal is dinner rather than having my last meal as being breakfast. That way, by the time it gets to the morning, I'm already hours into my fast and it's cost me nothing. I've slept. The first morning of the fast, I'll do my normal workout because I normally fast for 16 to 20 hours anyway. So doing a workout in the morning is what I normally do. I do try not to get really carried away with cardio though, because I find that if I do a lot of cardio, I am normally hungrier than what I would usually be. Liquid wise, I have black coffees and water, and that's it. I also drink my water warm, and yes, I know that is super weird for a lot of people, but I find I can drink a lot more water if it's room temperature than I can if it's really cold. I usually time my 40-hour fast so that I'm working in the office, because I find it easier to be distracted for the day if I'm in the office at work. I usually find the day goes pretty smoothly. The 8 to 10 hours into the fast, I am always just a little bit hungry. And I've looked into this, and this is where the body shifts in terms of where it's getting its fuel from. So what I've learnt is that the body generates glucose from non-carb sources to provide energy to the brain and vital organs as it adapts to where it sources your energy. And this is where I find that I'm a little bit tired and I'm a little bit hungry, and that's usually in that 8 to 12 hours. At around 2 p.m, I find that I start to get a bit of an energy boost and I feel really focused. This is when usually I'm not thinking about food and I'm just focused on my work and can get quite task focused. When I'm doing my usual 20-hour fast, my first snack is usually around 5:30. So when I'm doing the 40-hour fast, I do find that as I'm driving home from work at around 5:30, I am feeling hungry. But fortunately, when I get home with 2 young kids, I'm so busy getting them ready for bed that I don't have time to worry too much about hunger. My husband is also very good, and he'll eat his dinner with the kids before I get home from work. So I don't even have to see people eating food. By the time the kids go to bed, it's usually about 7:30, and I'm usually okay, because in my head I'm thinking, all right, I've only got till about 9 and then I'll go to bed, and it's only an hour and a half. I don't need to eat for an hour and a half. I can definitely starve off the hunger pains. I am very strategic though about what I do. So my husband gets up before 4 o'clock in the morning, so he goes to bed at around 8 o'clock. So I try really hard to make sure that I've got something that I'm going to watch on TV that I'm looking forward to, but I also multitask. So I'll also do something on my computer that is going to keep me distracted, because I know that if I sit there and I stare at TV for an hour until bedtime, I'm more likely to be thinking about being hungry, wanting to eat, and it's a whole lot harder to get through that last hour. Reminding myself that I only need to last till 9 o'clock though is a really good strategy, because then I'm like, I'm not going to ruin it now. It's almost been 24 hours without food. I'm not going to blow it by just this last half an hour. I also do a lot of self-talk about how great I'm going to feel the next day. Now, if I'm really hungry and I'm struggling a little bit, one of the things that I've found helps me is that I actually do a bit of online research about fasting. There's something about hearing other people's stories or reading all the benefits of fasting that keeps me motivated through that last little stretch before I go to bed. And this is why I decided to document my fasting, because while I found that really helpful, I actually found it quite hard to find where people were documenting how they were coping with fasting, and particularly for females. I found a lot about males doing fasting, but there's not as much information. So I thought I'd document my journey. I also thought it would be a good way for me to keep accountable too, and be able to track my progress to test that it really does work. So if you're finding this useful, make sure you subscribe so you can see the next videos. Now, I took some notes during my 40-hour fast just for this video, and at 8 o'clock at night, I found that I was actually feeling pretty good. It was actually just the habit of snacking that I was struggling with, more than the fact that I thought that I was really hungry. I usually have a snack before I go to bed. It's usually a protein kind of snack. And I think it was more the feeling that I was missing out on my nighttime snack that was digging me more than actually feeling really hungry. So that's why I keep busy working on my computer, watching something on TV, keeping myself distracted. In the last 2 40-hour fasts, I've found that I'm really, really tired at 9 o'clock and I'm almost falling asleep on the couch. So I really try and pay attention to that and go to bed early so that I feel better. It also means there's less time for me to be sitting there potentially tempted by food. But the weird thing is that on both these times, I've gone to bed at around 9 o'clock and then I've lain awake for like 30 or 40 minutes thinking of all the things that I want to be doing. So I have found that my brain gets quite alert later at night, which I don't normally have when I'm eating normally. It was actually late at night when I couldn't sleep when I was doing my 40-hour fast that I thought that this documentation of my fast could be a good idea. I have also read a bit about how other people have discovered that as they do fasting more as part of their lifestyle, that they actually need less sleep. So I'll definitely be tracking if this is something that occurs. I also find it helpful to do like a wee pinch of salt in some water a couple of times during my fast. So that's about keeping up with electrolytes in your body. So I'll usually do it when I get home from work, so around sort of 6 o'clock at night, and then I usually do it the next morning when I get up and I'm sort of at the end stages of the fast. I do really like electrolyte drinks, and there's obviously a lot of no sugar options that you can have, but some of them won't have sugar, but they'll have artificial sugar in them, and I'm just not sure that that works that well for me. I find that if I have one of those drinks, even if it's no sugar or whatever, I find that I feel hungrier. So there's something about the sweetness that kind of triggers me into thinking that I really want to eat. So I've just been trying just a pinch of salt and some warm water to see how it goes. But I'm quite keen to try some of those no calorie, no flavour electrolytes. So I'm going to give those a whirl next time. Now the next morning when I wake up, and it's usually about 33 hours in, I actually feel quite good. So I know that I'm on the downward stretch. It's not that long till I'm finished the fast. So I'll do my normal exercise, except I won't do a heavy weights routine. So I wouldn't like get up and do a heavy leg workout. I'll often do an ab workout and then just walking on the treadmill. I have found that my energy levels get quite good at around 34 hours. And supposedly at 24 hours, you're in autophagy, which is where the cellular cleaning or repair starts in your body. And I've done a little bit of reading about this too, and this is apparently where the body enters a cellular maintenance process, which intensified during the prolonged fasting. This is supposed to involve degradation and recycling of damaged or dysfunctional cellular components, promoting cellular health and function. Basically, they say that it reduces the risk of some diseases and can support longevity. Now, at the 37-hour mark, I find myself clock watching. I'm very aware that I'm only 3 hours away from the 40 hours and I'm hungry. I have to be really deliberate in this 37 to 38 hours because for some reason there's something about that time frame that I find I'm more hungry and I feel this thing in my mind saying, oh, you've pretty much done it, so if you're really hungry you should just eat. So I try and be deliberate about doing something that is like needs a bit of concentration so that I'm distracted more in that time frame, because I know that's like a little weak point of mine. Once I get past that though, I feel good again. I feel like I do in that 18 to 24 hour phase. And the 18 to 24 hour phase is supposed to be like the ketosis phase. And that's my favorite time. I find I feel really energetic and clear and I don't feel hungry. So that's, I think, what happens to me when I get around that 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the day before period, is that I just feel really focused. And I think that autophagy phase and that 37 hours in is maybe when my body's like doing that kind of detoxification process. So that might be why I feel more hungry and more tired. Because I do also find that I tend to have a bit of a headache around that point too. So I'll often chuck this wee bit of salt water drink in at that point as well, just to sort of take the edge off a little bit. Now at 40 hours, I actually usually feel really good. So sometimes I creep a little bit over the 40 hours, but usually I will stop and recognize it's time to eat. And I get on the scales at that point. And the thing that I found really interesting is that at 40 hours, so I'll weigh myself in the morning, so that'll be like 33 hours into the fast. My weight doesn't tend to change from that period on. So even though I think, oh, it's 40 hours, I should have lost heaps of weight, I usually just, my weight stabilizes at that point. And I found that that's the case from about 24 hours on. My weight is pretty much where it sits, no matter whether I've done 37 hours or 40 hours fasting. The good thing is that I found that while it felt frustrating at first, because I was like, oh, I should definitely have dropped weight, my weight actually stabilizes, so it doesn't go up a huge amount when I eat, and it only seems to increase by a couple 100 grams. And I found with the 40-hour fast, I tend to lose about 700 to 800 grams. So it's almost a kilo of weight in 40 hours, which I think, I mean, that's pretty great, but also it really resets me. So my mindset is one of, I'm not as hungry, I'm making better food choices, and I don't want to go through 40 hours of not eating and then waste it by just eating crap. So it's like a reset for my habits. Now, I haven't been doing 40-hour fasts for that long, so I'm going to continue to track my progress and make tweaks and see what else I can do to make it easier and what makes a difference. And obviously I want to see what the impact is long term on the weight loss. But I have been doing shorter fasts for almost a year now. So if you want to learn from some of my fasting mistakes, make sure you check out the video linked on your screen. And thanks very much for watching.